Alright, so hi everybody, it is NaNoWriMo day 3, and I am feeling better about NaNoWriMo and stuff. I've already done my writing for today, and I'm at my word count goal. And I figured that I'll tell you guys about my novel, because who else am I going to talk to about it? So, yeah, here goes. My main character's name is Adley Gray, and she is really suicidal in the beginning of the chapter. And then it kind of goes back in time to 2 years ago when she first met Dee, who she loves. And when I was writing this chapter, I was at the library, and I was looking out of the window at this lake with cool trees and everything, and I kind of just thought about Adley and Dee and what they would do if they were sitting by the edge of a lake. And then this whole scene kind of materialized, and I was just kind of writing it down, and it just kind of came to me, and I hadn't planned it out. So my first day of writing was awesome. So Adley is a writer like me, and she's very overly emotional, also like me. And so she is sitting by the lake, and she gets this idea, and she wants to write it down in her notebook, so she takes out her quill and her inkwell, and she starts writing, but she starts getting all of the ink on her hands, and is just really preoccupied, and Dee sneaks off into this low-hanging branch of a tree and sets up her easel and gets out her paints, because she's a painter. Woo, creative people couple. And she starts digging her hands into her handmade paints and mixing together colors and painting Adley with her long dark hair and her furrowed brow from writing, and her ink-stained hands, and just really capturing all of the things that she loves about Adley. And then Adley comes over and sees this painting of herself, and she's just really amazed and flattered, and she says "You seem to have captured all of my faults, but I can see so much of you in this painting that I have to admire it in spite of myself." And then Dee says that, "What are you talking about? You're perfect. I love you exactly the way that you are." And just something about that validation and that acceptance of Adley as a person, and it's exactly the way that she is in this moment right now, just was so overwhelmingly awesome to Adley that she gets down on one knee and proposes to Dee. And she kind of is so caught up in the moment that she gets overly emotional, even though she's the one proposing. And so Dee kind of takes her into her arms and rocks her and comforts her, and that's something that my boyfriend would do for me whenever I freak out. And I kind of wrote this from Dee being my boyfriend and me being Adley, and kind of our dynamic, and it helped me kind of get into the moment, because I've experienced something like this before. Not the proposal part, but maybe one day, Colin, if you're watching this. But anyways, this was completely unexpected. I did not intend to write any of this part, and so I just got caught up in the story, and I really started to run with it. And then later in the chapter, I want to flesh it out eventually, but they have a life together where they build their own house, a tiny cottage by the sea, out of driftwood and seashells and kind of whatever they can find, and they make a home for themselves and kind of hide out because they don't want to be found. And they spend 2 wonderful years together, but something's nagging at Dee the whole time, and she's not completely happy. And it's because even though she loves Adley to death, she knows that there's no way that they can have children, and she's always wanted to be a mom. And she kind of just becomes obsessed with the idea of becoming a mother and children and babies, and her biological clock is kind of kicking in, and that's kind of happening with me right now. I'm dealing with that as my body is telling me baby, 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 and I don't know what I would do if I found out I couldn't have children. So I kind of put myself in her shoes, and she walks into the ocean and never looks back. She kills herself because she's so upset. And Adley finds her body, and obviously that's going to be a really painful scene to write, but I was having a hard time, like I told you before, writing that part, because it's right in the beginning, but it's going to be one of the most emotional parts of my book, so I really want to make that part special and emotional for the reader and myself. I mean, I'm writing this basically for myself to kind of process these things that I'm thinking about. So that's chapter 1. Great way to start. Chapter 2, I kind of told you before, was Adley wakes up and she hears this noise outside in her garden, and it's this little boy with kind of dirty brown hair to his shoulders, and he's like dirty all over, and he's got tattered clothes, and he's kind of crouched over and scrounging in the dirt, and she's like, "What the crap are you doing?" And he like tries to run away, but she snatches him and brings him inside, and he tells her that the sun went red and everybody's just not knowing what to do, and he hints at that everyone is kind of like heading to the church because they're going to have like a town meeting where they're going to talk about what's happening, and that's going to be in a later chapter where they actually head to the church. And then that's a really brief thing of chapter 2, but chapter 3 is they are heading to the church, and they're walking side by side, and Adley has been without Dee for about 6 months, so she's really used to being alone and not having any human interaction. But this little boy named Julian, he has a really big heart, and he is so open about his touch. Like, he just grabs her hand, and while they're walking, and she kind of recoils at first, like, "Oh, I don't know about this," but then she really appreciates it. And they're walking hand in hand, and my camera's going to shut off, so I'm going to try to record more in just a second. So here's a cut.